Hello, good morning everyone. We are right now in the days of the month of Elul, the 30 days to get ready for the new year, as we spoke before. So let's find some kind of a connection, a relationship of this week's Parsha to these days of work, spiritual work for us, the last month of the year. The beginning of this week's Parsha, we start Ki Teitzei milchama al oivecha v'netanu Hashem Elokecha beyadecha v'shavita shivyo. Means when you go out to war on your enemy, and you will capture captivities. The way the Torah tells us about the idea of war, and as we know, the war that we're talking about in this week's Parsha, without getting too much into the details, there was two types of war in the law of Israel. There was the war in order to conquer the land of Israel. This was called the Melchemet Mitzvah, the war that was obligation, a mitzvah for the Jews to do. And this had one ruling and one promise of God, that war will be a major success, as it was. And then there's another type of war that through the Jewish history in the time when Jews were in Israel, well, this is called Milchemet Reshut. Milchemet Reshut means a war that it's not obligatory, it's not mandatory, it's only if the king would want to have war and conquer other countries, like in the times a lot being done in the time of King David. This sixth Parsha, when talking about going out to war, we're talking about the war, not the war to conquer Israel, we're talking about the war that the kings would do in order to conquer other nations. And in that war, God promises us, V'netanu Hashem Elokecha beyadecha, God will give the enemy over to your hands. Number one, and number two, v'shavita shivyo, you're going to capture captivities. And the question is, why are we so sure that in wars like this we'll always succeed? When we're talking about the wars of mitzvah, this we know God said this war for sure will succeed, because the war of mitzvah to conquer Israel. But we're talking a war of conquering nations. Who says we can do well? By the way, the Torah seems to say that Alo Yivecha means you're already on top of your enemies, and therefore V'netanu Hashem Elokecha beyadecha, God will give him over to you. And then we'll go to a second stage. Sometimes we're just going to give it over to you, but sometimes you go even more. V'shavita shivyo, you will be able to capture them. There's many explanations that we're not going to go into right now, but we'll explain it according to Hasidus. The way Hasidus explains this idea. And it's being spoken a lot also by the Or HaChaim HaKadosh and many other commentaries. And the explanation goes that this war that we're talking about over here is the war between not just Jews and other nations. This is a war between the soul and the body. And as we know, the body is always the enemy of the soul. The soul wants to connect to Hashem. The body wants to have its own temptations. And this is what we have a battle all the time. As when Rivka, we know, was pregnant with the two boys, the twins, she went to the rabbi. When the rabbi then told her that you have two nations in you. Ula'om mila'om yematz. One will try to conquer the other. And as we know, who is these two nations in her? This is the soul, the neshama of the Jew, and the body of the Jew. Well, this is the battle that we have the whole time. And this is what this week's Parsha promises us. That there's a battle between your soul and your body. But God promises you, Al Oyevecha. The soul is always going to be on top of the body. Meaning to say, the soul is always sure that we're going to win the battle. But in winning the battle, there's two ways. Some people the soul takes over the body, that the body will not interrupt a Jew to be able to serve God properly. But then there's another way. And this is when you capture the soul. You capture the body. And that means that the body is not only not interrupting the soul to serve Hashem. It means that this body is helping the soul. When you capture someone, it becomes a part of you. And this is the second stage of the Torah says, stage number 1, that you're going to win the war over the body. The body will not interrupt you serving God. Second stage, that you will capture the body. That the body will become a servant to God like the soul. That's a beautiful, great level that we can reach. And this is so related to this month of Elul. The month of Elul, as we know, the king is in the field. We spoke about it many times. And Hashem gives us the help and the guidance that we can serve Him and overtake our positive, overtake the negative, and finish the year amazing. We got to learn from this 6th Parsha that God is promising us, you just do the work. Let the neshama take over the body. And God promises you'll succeed. Not only you succeed that the body will not interrupt, you will succeed that the body will become also servant to God, helping you. But we have to begin now. There's always a famous story that I was told when I was a child. I don't know if it's a story or was a metaphor. About the boat that came to Ireland. Those days, Mediterranean Sea, the boat would get lost by the winds. And that was a story, and the boat landed in Ireland. And finally the captain told everyone, get off the boat and go enjoy the island. Shop, do what you want. But I will not be able to call everyone. What I'm going to do is, the boat is going to make 3 sounds. Sound number 1 will be, get ready to come back. Sound number 2 will be, get quickly back. Sound number 3 will be, the boat is leaving. Sure. Most people, as soon as sound number 1 came, they started packing the bags and coming back to the boat. Some people said, there's 2 more sounds, we can wait. They're waiting for the 2nd sound. But the real procrastinators, as we call them, they're waiting for the 3rd sound and they ran. But there's always one, unfortunately, left behind that he thought he'll make it last second, but he didn't make it. This is a metaphor. God gave us the same idea. God is the captain of the boat. And He says, I'm giving you 3 sounds. First sound is the month of Elul, come back. Second sound is Rosh Hashanah, come back. And third sound is Yom Kippur. Let's all be smart like those wise people. And let's, by the first sound, and this is the month of Elul, return, come back, and have a great year together. Good Shabbos, everyone.